Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So, today is April 22nd. It's Earth Day, a time when we think about renewal, spring, that kind of energy.
Right, that vibrant rebirth we see all around us.
Exactly. And you brought in some really powerful material. Eckhart Tolle is a new Earth. We thought we'd explore the parallels between the Earth's renewal and maybe our own potential for that.
Absolutely. Think of this as a bit of a guide for anyone listening who's on that spiritual path, seeking ways to feel, more well, whole, empowered.
And find that spiritual synergy we talk about.
Precisely. It's all interconnected.
Okay, so let's start with this image Tolle uses. The first flowering. He talks about the very first flower appearing on Earth, maybe 114 million years ago.
Yeah, he calls it a momentous event, like a huge leap, an evolutionary transformation for plants.
It makes you stop and think, doesn't it? This sudden burst of, beauty.
It really does. And for me, that's such a strong metaphor for how sudden positive change can happen within us, too, like these unexpected breakthroughs.
Just like that first flower was something totally new.
Exactly. And Toll notes, flowers, they don't last forever, they're fleeting. But their beauty can give us a glimpse, maybe, of the beauty inside ourselves, our true nature.
And he connects joy and love to recognizing that beauty. It's like seeing the flower reminds us of something deep down.
It resonates.
He then gives other examples from nature, transformations that seem almost impossible.
Right, like rocks turning into clear crystals, or carbon, just basic carbon, becoming a dive-in under all that pressure and heat.
Wow.
And the point there, I think, is that even when we feel dense or stuck or like nothing can change, there's this hidden potential, this possibility for like profound inner transformation.
That's hopeful. And then there's the reptile example.
Oh yeah, the idea of reptiles evolving feathers, wings, becoming birds, moving beyond being totally earthbound.
It's a powerful picture, isn't it? Overcoming limitations, not just improving a little, but really transcending.
Exactly, transcending. And all these examples, the flowers, crystals, birds, they have this this ethereal quality, as Tolle puts it.
And that quality, he says, is why they resonate so much with us humans, why they feel significant.
Yeah, because that ethereal nature, sort of, it doesn't hide the indwelling spirit quite as much.
Okay, unpack that a bit. Indwelling spirit.
Think of it as the fundamental life force, the consciousness underneath everything. Tolle suggests all forms, all life, are just temporary expressions of this one underlying life.
Got it.
But in things like flowers or crystals or birds, that inner essence, that spark, seems, well, maybe a bit more obvious. Their beauty hints at something beyond just the physical.
And we instinctively pick up on that.
I think so. It connects with our own intuition that we're more than just bodies and thoughts. It's why beauty draws us in.
It's like recognizing something familiar, a shared essence, maybe. He also mentions newborns here.
Yes, babies, puppies. Their vulnerability, their innocence, that divine life essence just shines through so clearly, doesn't it? Even people who might seem quite cynical can be touched by that purity.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, but then Tolle kind of pivots. He starts talking about human dysfunction.
Right. He makes this pretty bold statement that the normal state of mind of most human beings contains a strong element of dysfunction or even madness.
Oof. He even brings in the Hindu idea of Maya, the veil of illusion. That sounds harsh.
It does sound harsh, but I think it's crucial to see he's not just judging. He's observing a pattern, a way of thinking that causes immense suffering personally and globally.
He acknowledges we've achieved amazing things.
Absolutely. Incredible intelligence. But he argues that intelligence is often tainted by madness.
And he points to the 20th century as proof. The wars, the destruction.
Yeah, driven by fear, greed, power. He calls it intelligence in the service of madness. And sadly, he says it's not just history. These patterns are still playing out now.
And connecting that back to Earth Day, you can see the impact. The environmental destruction, the harm to other species.
It all stems from that fundamental disconnect, that ignorance of how interconnected we all are. This dysfunction has real planetary consequences.
That brings us to a really critical point he makes. Humanity faces a choice: evolve or die.
Stark, isn't it? And this evolution isn't just minor adjustments. It's about a new dimension of consciousness emerging, something beyond the old ego patterns.
And it's not a new religion or belief system.
No, that's key. It's deeper. It involves the transcendence of thought, realizing there's a dimension within us, an awareness that's infinitely bigger than our thoughts.
That moment of liberation when you realize the voice in my head, that's not actually me.
Exactly. You're the awareness listening to the voice. That awareness existed before the thought.
That's a game changer. So how does this I thought, this ego even form?
Well, as we grow up, that basic sense of I starts latching on to things. It identifies with our gender, our stuff, how we look, where we're from, what we believe, our jobs, family roles,
Our knowledge, our memories.
all of it. Likes, dislikes, it all bundles together into this mental construct we call me or I. That's the egoic self.
He tells that story about overhearing the woman with the racing thoughts and then realizing his own mind was just as busy, just with different content.
Yeah, it really shows how common this is. We all have that mental chatter. The ego pretty much works through identification, this is me, and separation, that's not me.
It needs something to define itself against.
Right. It's constantly trying to survive, to feel solid. And it often needs an other, something separate, to maintain that sense of I, comparison, judgment, conflict. It often stems from that.
He also mentions the illusion of ownership, how we identify with things.
Using possessions to bolster that egoic identity. And then he quotes Sartre, which is really interesting.
Say that quote again?
The consciousness that says I am is not the consciousness that thinks.
Okay, say more about that.
Well, think about it. When you become aware that you are thinking, the awareness itself isn't the thought. It's separate. It's on another level. That awareness is the fundamental I am.
If we were just our thoughts, we wouldn't know we were thinking.
Kind of like being lost in a dream, yeah. You're not aware you're dreaming until you step outside it.
So even if everyone's ego looks different on the surface, different possessions, different beliefs.
Fundamentally, Tolle argues they operate the same way. Identification and separation. Always striving, often creating conflict.
But then comes the good news, as he puts it.
Yes. The possibility of a radical transformation of human consciousness. Call it enlightenment, salvation, liberation, awakening. Different words, same core shift.
And it's not about the ego trying to be good?
No, that's crucial. True goodness is an effort. It's recognizing the goodness that's already inherent within you, beneath the ego, and letting that emerge.
There's one underlying truth, inseparable from who we really are.
Exactly. And spiritual teachings, they're like signposts pointing towards that truth. And realizing that truth always involves becoming free from being totally identified with. Well, with form. Your thoughts, your body, your roles, your story.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The pain body, what's that about?
Tolle introduces this idea of accumulated past emotional pain, stuff we carry around, both from our own lives and maybe even collectively as humans.
It sounds heavy.
It can be. He suggests that this pain body kind of feeds on negative thoughts. It can even unconsciously seek out more pain to keep itself going.
Is that why people sometimes overreact or seem stuck in unhappiness?
That's often the pain body at play, yeah. Exaggerated reactions, negativity. But here's the interesting part. Tolle says if we can break the link between the pain body and our thinking through conscious presence, by bringing awareness to it without getting caught up in the story, when we do that, the pain body can actually become fuel for consciousness. It can become a catalyst for waking up.
So intense suffering can sometimes push people towards awakening.
He suggests that, yes, people with really heavy pain bodies sometimes hit a point where they just can't live with the unhappiness anymore, and that breaking point can become an opening.
Which brings us back to presence. Define that again.
He calls it still and alert attention. It's the ability to sense that underlying divine life essence in everything, in everyone, and recognize it as the same essence within ourselves.
And being present breaks the identification.
Exactly. It cuts the connection. You stop feeding the pain body with your thoughts. You observe it with awareness, and the energy trapped in it can then transform.
He told that story about the woman who just accepted her feeling of unhappiness.
Right. And by accepting it, not resisting it, she suddenly felt space around the unhappiness. That's the power of non-judgmental awareness. Presence changes the inner landscape.
Because the ego lives in time. Past regrets, future worries.
Precisely. The ego thrives on past and future. But real life, our actual experience, is always now. Purpose isn't found in the future. It unfolds in the present.
So making the present moment your friend, that's the end of the ego.
That's what he says. The illusion of time comes from confusing the present moment itself with whatever is happening in the present moment, the content.
But everything actually happens in the now.
Always. And freedom, he suggests, comes from accessing the vertical dimension of depth through the now, going deeper into the present, rather than just moving along the surface of time.
Okay, so how does this translate into action? Awaken doing.
Right. When we act from presence, our actions have a different quality. He talks about 3 ways, or modalities. Acceptance, enjoyment, and enthusiasm.
Acceptance is 4.
For things we have to do but maybe don't particularly like. Instead of resisting and complaining internally, we bring acceptance to the task. That brings peace
Okay.
and enjoyment.
That's when you're fully absorbed in what you're doing in the present moment. You're not doing it just to get to an end result. There's joy in the activity itself. That connects you to like a universal creative energy.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm is enjoyment plus a sense of purpose or vision. But crucially, it's a purpose aligned with something bigger than just your own ego serving others, contributing to the whole, not just about getting rich or famous.
That makes sense. So bringing this all together, especially today, Earth Day, how can we practically integrate this stuff for that wellness, wholeness, empowerment we talked about?
Great question. Let's think about a practice based on presence. Maybe today, consciously take a moment, go outside or look out a window,
Yeah.
find something in nature, a flower, a tree, the sky.
And just look at it with that still and alert attention. Don't just label it, really see it. Notice its beauty, that ethereal quality. Remember that first flower blooming millions of years ago? Try to sense the life energy, the divine life essence within it.
And recognize it's the same essence in me.
Exactly. Feel that connection. That's a powerful way to link planetary renewal with your own inner potential.
I like that. What else?
Well, think about your day. If there are tasks you don't enjoy, instead of grumbling, consciously practice acceptance, find peace in the doing, just for this moment.
Okay, shift the internal attitude.
And for things you do enjoy, let yourself be fully present. Feel the aliveness, the simple joy in the activity itself, right now.
So it's about where you place your attention, resistance or presence.
Pretty much. And maybe throughout the day, just take tiny moments, like little pauses. Become aware of the space between your thoughts. Just sense your own background presence, that quiet awareness that's always there underneath the surface noise, that naked, unveiled beingness.
Well, even brief moments help cultivate that.
Absolutely. It's like exercising a muscle. These small acts of presence start to build that inner stillness and connection.
It feels like finding a rhythm, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Between our inner world and the outer world. Like the earth finding its rhythm in spring.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And cultivating this presence, it really does foster that wellness, that wholeness. It empowers us, and it deepens that spiritual synergy.
This has been incredibly rich. Really diving into a new earth and seeing these parallels between the planet's renewal and our own potential, it's profound. That idea of interconnectedness and presence being the key, that really lands.
It's powerful stuff. And look, if this resonates with anyone listening, if you feel drawn to explore this further on your own path, we really encourage you to check out the classes and coaching with Dr. Brian Manjarrez, MD, Dr. Passion.
Right. He offers fantastic guidance and support for this kind of spiritual journey.
Definitely worth exploring if you want to go deeper.
And of course, if you got value from our deep dive today, please do like and subscribe. It helps us keep bringing these kinds of conversations to you.
And maybe one final thought to leave you with. Just consider, maybe later today, one area in your life where you feel really identified with something external. Could be your job title, a possession you love, maybe even an old story about yourself you keep telling.
Okay.
What might shift just subtly if you brought more conscious presence, a little bit more detachment to that identification? Just observe it with awareness. What space might open up for your true nature to emerge? A bit like the earth waking up in spring, something to ponder.